Okay, so in the next Elliott wave theory lesson, we're going to be focusing on simple and complex pullbacks. So within the 5-wave count, we have wave 2 and wave 4, which are pullback waves. And those can be simple and complex, meaning that one can be literally a very simple pullback, and the second one can be a little bit more detailed, a little bit more complex of a pullback. And I'll actually show you what that looks like on the chart. So what we're doing here, we're just going to build on top of the Elliott wave theory to fully explain the whole package, to explain the Elliott wave theory as a whole package. So that's what we're doing here in these next few lessons. So in this one, again, simple pullbacks and complex pullbacks. What do they look like? What are they? Let's have a look. All right, so simple pullbacks and complex pullbacks. This is a very simple principle. It's not too complex. So if we look at the chart here, we have another 5-wave count trend. This is kind of what it looks like. Wave 1 is this breakdown, because you can see here we're moving upwards, right? So wave 1 is the breakout. Wave 2 is this pullback right here. Wave 3 is the largest that we have, the largest run within a trend. And then we have this complex pullback, wave 4. Okay, and wave 5 is the last run. So simple pullback is typically just a very simple, straight up pullback. A complex pullback looks more like this, which looks like it might be developing some kind of a price action pattern. In this case, it's a rising wedge, right? Rising wedge price action pattern. This is a complex pullback because it's not just a simple pullback to the upside. There's a little bit more detail within it. So that is why it's actually called a complex pullback. It's simply because we have more detail within it. It could be developing some kind of a price action pattern. Like in this case, we have a rising wedge. So let's jump back to the drawings and actually put this on within a drawing itself. All right, so let's start off with just drawing out a simple 5-wave count again. So wave 1 is the breakout. Wave 2 is a pullback. Wave 3 is the largest run within a trend that we typically get. So that's wave 3. Wave 4 now is another pullback, but let's make it a complex pullback. I'll explain it in a second. So it looks like this, but it's still a pullback within the larger trend, and now this is wave 5. All right, let me number it. So wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, wave 4, and lastly, wave 5. So, simple pullbacks and complex pullbacks. This right here is what we would call a simple pullback, simply because we have a breakout, which is wave 1, and then this is wave 2, just a straight up simple pullback. Wave 3, and now this is a little bit more of a complex pullback. We might develop a falling wedge or a flag or some kind of a price action pattern. And typically this would look something like this. So when it comes to numbering, because the waves are typically numbered, wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, wave 4, wave 5, so are the complex pullbacks themselves. So a complex pullback is again an A, this would be a B, and this would be a C. And then complex pullback finishes, and we begin a new wave 5. Now the same idea can apply obviously on a wave 2 pullback. So check it out. If we start another same trend, let's just start the same trend to the upside. So wave 1, wave 2 now turns into a complex pullback. Wave 3 is the largest run that we have. So just explodes to the upside. Wave 4 is now a simple pullback. And lastly, wave 5. All right, so let's do the same thing here. So that's wave 1, this would be wave 2, this would be wave 3, and so on, wave 4, and lastly wave 5. But now what we have is, the difference is that wave 2 currently is a complex pullback. So wave 2 becomes an A, a B, and a C. That's it. So that's mainly explains the simple and complex pullbacks. They just happen on a wave 2 and a wave 4. Wave 2 and a wave 4 are pullback waves. So that is typically whenever we might get a simple or a complex pullback. So that's kind of it when it comes to simple waves and complex waves. However, there's one major thing that I want to explain lastly is this. Whenever we have a complex pullback, typically we will follow with a simple pullback. Or if we have a simple pullback, we will follow with a complex pullback. So what I mean by that is, if you look at this example again, the initial example, we have a simple pullback right here and a complex pullback on a wave 4. So wave 2 is simple, wave 4 is complex. So the idea is that if wave 2 is a simple pullback, wave 4 will typically be a complex pullback, and vice versa. If you look at the example again, the second example that I drew out, wave 2 was a complex pullback, and then wave 4 was a simple pullback. So the way we can use this is, again, by seeing that wave 2 is actually a simple pullback, and then the trend continues. So wave 1 breakout, wave 2 simple pullback, wave 3 the largest run that we have. Now, if we believe that a wave 4 is coming, we should potentially expect a complex pullback, which is an ABC. A little bit deeper, a little bit more complex, a little bit messier, and might develop some kind of a price action pattern and so on. And then we continue into wave 5. So if we look at one example right here on the chart, this is again what a complex pullback looks like. So right here we have this initial breakout, right? Wave 1, wave 2 was this, it still looked a little bit weird, but this is a wave 2 pullback. And then we had this wave 3. Now wave 4 became this complex pullback, which is an A, a B, and a C. Finished the wave 4 pattern, gave us a rising wedge, and then we broke to the downside with the last wave of the trend, which is the wave 5 run. Okay, so this is again a beautiful example of a complex pullback and a simple pullback. So that's pretty much it when it comes to simple pullbacks and complex pullbacks. It's not complicated, but again, you just have to understand how it looks whenever we're looking at the chart itself. So simple pullback, again, wave 2, wave 4 can be complex, or if wave 2 is a complex, wave 2 is a simple. That's really all that we need to know. And then a complex pullback is typically some kind of a price action pattern that develops. Is this A, B, and a C. And in this case, we had this rising wedge as an example. So that's it. But what we're doing here is we're just building on top of this Elliott wave theory. And this is part of that Elliott wave theory. We have a couple more lessons left. So in the next few lessons, we're actually going to go even deeper, building on this concept a little bit more and a little bit more until we're done and the Elliott wave theory is fully explained. So that's it for now. I'll see you in the next one.